Welcome everyone, this is Halak again, and welcome to another Java tutorial session. And in the last tutorial, I ended up with talking about or discussing the static um, concept, right? And I demonstrated how it is different with static versus instance variable. Now, the one thing that I should have went further was that after doing this get counter, right, I broke the pattern, right? I said that, okay, well, instead we created two objects, right? And I counted 1 and 2, and then I just say, well, I'm going to set it to 200, right? And print it out, all right? Now, to show that it's actually shared by the class, I'm going to create another super class object 3, okay? And create another one, okay? And then I'm going to get the counter, okay? So get counter, and then you'll see that it's at 201. And so this will clearly demonstrate that it's shared by the class. Okay, so there it is, 201. Okay. Now, in this session, I'm going to go into a little bit more depth. Okay, the reason why I named superclass and this one subclass, it's for a reason, right? I'm going to extend it, right? I'm going to extend superclass. Although, remember, I told you before that this is just for purely demonstration purposes. It's a bad idea to inherit a concrete class. Okay, I think the only place that's safe to inherit a concrete class is if the class is final, which we will get into in another tutorial session, or if it's a singleton pattern. Okay, um, uh, so so please, this is just for demonstration purpose. Okay, this is an anti-pattern, so we call. Okay, you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to get rid of all this. I don't really need this anymore. Yeah, I can start again. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and I can always regenerate it again. Yeah, so I'm going to get rid of all that. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some static method, okay? So we call it public static void. I'm just going to call it method. And then here, I'll just do a print statement. Okay. So print, I'm going to print the actual path to it. So, okay. All right, so super dot method, okay? Just so that we know that's when we invoke that. Okay. And the same thing for in the subclass. Okay. So to avoid typing again, I'm just going to copy and then change this in here, subclass. All right, so that's what we have. Now, okay, we may not even need this. We need this. All right, so this is what we have right now, and what I'm going to do is again, this is an example of polymorphism that comes into play again. Okay, now what I'm going to do is show something. For example, yeah, I don't need this. Okay, so again, remember, static or class variables is shared by a class, right? And methods is also shared by a class. So, and it's not owned by any one object. Okay, so a static method is not owned by any one object. And that being said, if you want to invoke it, okay, there we can invoke that with the actual name, right, of the class, right? And for subclass, you can do the same. Even though it's the same, we're in the same class, we can do this. Okay. All right. So we run it. All right. There you go. Okay. So this is fairly straightforward. Okay. So we know this. Now, this is when it becomes a little trickier. Okay, so I'm going to say superclass. Okay, so superclass, I'm just going to keep that superclass. Okay, and here I'm going to have superclass. All right. Now I'm going to do superclass again. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to call it subclass. Right. And this is actually subclass. Okay. Let's assign that. Oh, mistake, because I did not inherit it. Okay, so I got to inherit that. Okay, so now everything's fine. All right. So you notice that this is polymorphism coming into play. Subclass is a type of superclass, so I can assign it to a supertype. All right. Okay. So now let's create something else. Okay. Let me just refactor this. Actually, I'm going to call this instance method. So let's refactor this. Call it instance method. All right. What happened there? You know what? I'm going to cancel it. Actually, I'm going to keep it there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is actually I will refactor that thing. I'm going to call this instance method. Okay. And then here, okay, I'm going to do a printout. And I'm going to call it superclass, right? You know, so I'm going to put this space there. Instance method. So we don't get confused as that's what's being invoked. The static method, that is. All right, let's go back here. I'm going to rename it. Okay. I'm going to call this static method. And do the refactor. Okay, so we refactored it. Okay, now it's called static method. And same as this as well. Change this. The static method. Okay. And shows conflict. What is this? Continue. It's not going to override. Okay. This is a static method. It's not going to override. All right. So that's what we have. Okay. I can run it again to make sure everything's fine. While it's running, I can put some other things in here. So I'm going to also create an instance method. Kind of lazy to type, so why not just... Okay, there it is, so it's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to also put instance method in the subclass. All right, so subclass. All right, so there we go. Okay, now we have that. Okay, so now, and that created two objects. Okay, now if I actually do the printout, okay, so superclass, superclass dot instance method and subclass, okay, instance method, okay, all right. I'm gonna just okay, I'm gonna do a print here to separate it. Okay, so that, oops. And now I'm gonna run it. Okay, so run. All right, so it's what we expect. Okay, so superclass, it prints out well, fine. And then here you notice that polymorphism is at work here. Okay, so this is the dynamic runtime doing its work. It knows, right? So this is, even though they're both superclass type, right? But one of them is actually a superclass, and the other one is a subclass object, right? And it knows to call it, right? Okay, it knows to call the right method. Okay, and so for a superclass, it called this one, and for a subclass, it called this one. All right, this one right here. Even though they're both, we assigned it to be both of them to be a type superclass, right? So this is a polymorphism at work. Okay. So before I go on any further, I'm going to stop this tutorial here before it gets any longer, and I will continue with this example. Okay, so see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.